I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna have my chair lift. I'm gonna tell you. Did I? Oh, yeah, but. I'm gonna tell you. I never respond and then say, oh, yeah, but. I'm gonna tell you. I never respond and then say, oh, yeah, but. I never respond and then say, oh, it's actually, I never respond and then say, oh, it's actually, I never respond and then say, oh, it's actually, I never respond and then say, oh, it's actually,
Testing, testing.
I am. Want me to just do it? Good morning, everyone. We're here for the Saturday, March 21st, 2026 meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee to discuss the 2026 budget. I'll do the reading. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings 2026 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2025, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, Common Laws of the Open Public Meetings Act requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has a discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire the governing body to comply with this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, the Township of Maplewood does hereby prohibit except to set forth in formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
We can't move because we will do the salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty,
Justice for all. I know, that was for the mayor. He didn't do it though.
Made it through though.
Yeah.
You made it through. You made it through.
But I guess in that case,
Mhm.
it's that one.
Somebody was, I think Cindy was doing.
It doesn't seem to me.
No, I think it was with his phone. He recorded with his phone. Yeah.
Look at you. Okay, so we've done the statement, so let's do the roll call.
Ms. Mayor. Ms. Adams. Here. Ms. Collins Colding. Yes. Mr. Daffis.
Present.
Ms. Herman,
Here.
Mayor DeLuca.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Township Administrator overview.
Thank you, Mayor. I am joined this morning by our Assistant Administrator, Miriam Perez, our CFO, Niall Clements, and our Assistant CFO, April Miller. And we've all been working on the budget for months and months, but certainly after the last budget workshop that we had to incorporate changes that the Township Committee had requested into the operating budget to make recommendations on the capital budget, and to at least line up and explain how any discussed changes would impact the budget. And we prepared for you worksheets for each of these. The one thing that the finance office is still working on is the annual financial statement, and that has taken a lot of their attention over the last few weeks and month. And we expect to have that done in the next few weeks. By the time we introduce, or we plan to introduce on April 7th, and if not by then, shortly thereafter, we can introduce a budget without the annual financial statement completed, but the state won't approve the budget for final adoption until we submit to them our annual financial statement. The big piece for us in the AFS is, and what we, with any budget, we're always waiting to see, is how much surplus we regenerated as a result of the prior year budget operations. The township's in a fortunate position in that at the end of 2024, we had $10.6 million in surplus, which is a good amount. We realize as revenue each year a certain amount from surplus. Last year, from that 10.6, we used 2.7 million as surplus as a revenue, and we hope to regenerate that amount or more in the budget that we presented to you today. That has a 2.95% increase. We are proposing to use $3 million of surplus. For the last few years, we've been generating more surplus as a result of operations than we had the prior year and than we had anticipated in the budget. And, there's a hope that that trend continues and we'd be able to use more in this year's budget. So that's
You meant 2.7?
this year would be a little over $3 million. Last year was $2.7 million.
Okay, sorry, I'm looking on the sheet where you've got 2025 was 2.7.
Yep. And then
And then current-
2026 recommended, I think it says, is
Okay, I see.
3.03.
0.3. Okay, got it.
We'll go through that as we go through the operating budget, but I'm just giving you kind of a big picture of where we are with our budget. There will be changes, but we still have flexibility both on the revenue side and the expense side. We think to incorporate any changes that the Township Committee may request, both that are already shown on the sheet as proposed or any new items that come up today. And we have presented the budget, at least with everything that's been adopted so far, to the auditors. They've run a review, and we're well below our tax cap and our appropriations cap. So we don't expect to run into any issues for either of those. We have, hundreds of thousands of dollars of cap space for both of those. So that leaves us with a good amount of flexibility.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Well, thank you very much. So today, we're going to start off with capital. In the past, capital has had an impact on the operating budget because we've had to include 5% of our capital in the operating budget. But we do not have to do that this year. And could you explain why?
Because we have a reserve in the capital fund balance is well over $2 million. The authorization for capital ordinances this year, if it was $10 million, that would be 500,000. Instead of budgeting 500,000 in the operating budget, we'd be able to utilize capital fund balance for the 5% needed for those new ordinances.
Okay. So because we have such a healthy fund balance, we don't have to impact our operating, which is very good, because that always was a drag on how much we could capitalize because it impacted the budget. So that's a good one. Mr. Weary, you have sent us, last night, you sent us additional spreadsheets on, if we can go to the capital summary 2026. There are 5 tabs. The first is municipal.
Yes.
You you have made some changes here according to your notes. So we're looking at administrative recommendation 3. And could you explain just on the ones that you've changed
Yeah.
and the ones you're not recommending
Mhm.
and why?
Sure. So starting at the top, you have 26-01 for IT servers. I had originally not recommended any additional money because it was unclear to us what the total cost of that project was going to be. We were still working with IT. They were still evaluating our system. Just yesterday, we had a meeting with our IT vendor. They gave us a refined proposal, and they also gave us a timeline, which was quicker than we thought. We expected we would do some work this year and some work next year, but they feel that we can get all the work done this year. And so we'd ask that the total amount be approved for borrowing this year. There are still some questions out there because the part of this is a server upgrade, and purchasing, especially RAM and some of the components, is very volatile right now because of the amount of data centers that are coming online and the demand for those types of parts. And so our IT vendors once approved, they're just going to watch the market, could be for a couple months, waiting for us to make a purchase at a price that we think is appropriate. So that may delay it a bit, but they're confident that they'll be able to get the work done this year at prices that with this 250,000, we'd be able to get all the work done. The Township Committee had appropriated or had approved for borrowing $500,000 last year, some of which we've already used for upgrades, and this would be the balance of that.
Okay.
So that number was added. The next large one,
I just want to clarify the admin 2 and admin 3, the admin 1, like, can you just please
yes,
clarify what those each are?
absolutely. So the first, just the cost column is what the department heads had submitted for a request. So if you go, like, we'll pick kind of like an easy one. If you go down to municipal parking lot repairs, Mr. Kittner in the engineering office had submitted $250,000 to mill and pave the town hall parking lot here. So that all those are shown in costs. When we realize, what we have capacity for, and what the total requests are, the total requests were $6.6 million. The township is not in a position to approve that amount for borrowing each year because we're not in a position to pay debt service on that high amount of cost. The range we would like to see us in is the $4 to $7 million range of approved borrowing each year, because we can support debt service on that without any, greater than 2.5% increases on taxes each year. So that's why the range I try to look at is just around $7 million in new borrowing per year. So
You're talking now about the total at the bottom.
yeah. So for cost, department head had submitted requests of $16.6 million. So we have to start looking at cuts. So I meet with the department heads and we decide areas where we think that they can cut out requests. Parking lot was one of them. So that gets kind of cut immediately. And then between admin rec 1, 2, and 3, they're just varying stages of cuts that go from the 16.6 originally requested down to 12 million to 9.9 and to 7.6 in the final column.
And the goal is to try and get it less than 7?
I mean, ideally, we'd like to see it as close to 7 as we can. Yeah. And there are other, there is some other things that go into that. The SEFD line would also be supported by, that same kind of bucket of money. So we want to get it as low as we can.
So we will basically be looking at the admin 3 line?
That's what I would recommend for this year. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So let's go to DPW abatement, 2603.
And I do want, Mayor, if I could, just for one moment, speak about 2601, the municipal road repairs. That was a $1 million request. New Jersey American Water will be repaving with us a lot of roads in the town this year. There will certainly be roads that they don't get to and will need to be repaved, but we do know they'll be doing a lot of work in town. We want to wait and see. They're about 70% done with their total project, so they're still going to start digging up some more roads in town.
I'm sorry, what percent?
75%
Oh, 75,
with their
okay.
project. So they'll be here maybe through the summer. And then we know PSE&G is going to come in and do work on a number of roads in town. So my recommendation is to allow New Jersey American Water, PSE&G to repave the roads that they're required to repave, and then we'll come back next year with a full request. And that's one, I think that it's an opportunity to save money, but also we have a capacity for how many road repaving projects we can manage, I think. And so I want to make sure we realize that as we discuss this budget. When you go down to DPW abatement 2603 under engineering, that's $1.3 million, not recommended in the final one. The township is not able to fund this in some prior years as well, but we do know that this is a project that will have to be done in the next few years. And this is for remediation required to be done at the DPW site.
Your note next to that indicates that the relevant agency may issue fines if the area is not remediated.
They may. Yeah. And we've been in discussions with the DEP. They're aware that this is on our radar. We have done some work investigating what's required to be done. So it's not, we're not keeping them in the dark on this.
Is this,
We also, as a state agency, we don't exactly know when they're going to come back and forth our hand. But the township committee has an opportunity at any point through the year to as borrowing. So it's not, well, this is what we hope will be this year. Let's say we were forced into a position later in the year where we had to undertake some work. We could come back to the township committee and talk to you at that point.
is this the work we need to do for the affordable housing area?
Unrelated.
No.
It's completely unrelated.
Property at DPW. It was a former Tenneco site. And from that prior use, there was contamination, which the township is responsible for.
Okay.
So 2606, safe routes to schools, you didn't include that in any of your recommendations, and that's because we're not there yet, right?
That's right. We have design money already for this, which we'll use, and we expect construction to commence in the fall of 2027. So this will be a request in 20.
Okay, and the 2608 traffic calming, the initial request for 600,000, you've been consistent at 300,000.
Yeah, across the board. And this is still an increase from the 200,000 that was approved in 2025. And our engineer thinks even at this $300,000 number that we'll get done the priority projects that we had discussed for this year.
Okay. And then D Hart Field, we're going to talk about that after we go through all this. Okay, so then 2613, you mentioned before, municipal parking lot, 2614, municipal building architectural assessments. Those were included, but you have not recommended anything at any point.
Yeah, I think that those are projects that can wait for future years.
Okay, Nelson Wall, the 215.
Same. Yeah, that can wait for future years.
All right, so then the next one is 2616, bike lanes, Donnell Road. It made it to your previous recommendation, but you dropped it in your final.
Yeah, and looking for areas where we can reduce the amount of total approved borrowing. I thought this was one that could be moved to a future year, mostly because of capacity. This year, we plan to engage with the public on the Prospect Street design. There is an opportunity there for bike lanes to be included. Like we had done with Parker, I expect that to be a very robust public conversation through public meetings, engineering committee meetings, township committee meetings. And so thinking about bike lanes on Donnell and also what undertaking that would be, I thought maybe that would be an opportunity to move that to next year and also give opportunity next year for those conversations to take.
Is that 250 based on, is that for striping, or there was some conversation about materials for the sidewalk?
That would be under Greenway construction.
Oh, the green.
2618.
Kind of,
So it's just striping for the bike lanes,
Yep.
Right.
pretty much.
Well, I feel like the Donnell project is a little bit, we've talked about that a little bit more and a little bit farther in the planning of that than Prospect. And I feel like Donnell is very connected to Parker.
Yeah, can we hold off on that? Well, let's go through it and then we're going to see if anybody wants to bring up any recommended changes.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm sure you will.
I'll
I
highlight.
will too. Okay, Greenway construction, 2618.
Yeah.
Just trying to move us along
Yeah.
because we got, okay.
One of the same, so this is the walking path between Jefferson and Oakview. This is on the
You made it
sidewalks.
into two, but you dropped it. Same
That's
reason.
right. Same reason. Yep.
Then your other ones are pretty consistent from 2 to 3. For DPW, you just cut down on their requests. I do want to ask about, in buildings and grounds, you gave us something that said some costs for Maple Crest and Fields were taken out of capital. Could you talk about that?
Nothing has been taken out of capital yet, but
Oh,
I had brought that up because I want the township committee to have the option. So in the buildings and grounds capital request is $32,000 for improvements at Maple Crest Field, and we've discussed
Wait,
that.
I'm sorry, where are we?
So this is
2602.
Thank
20
you.
2602.
Got it. I'm there.
Under DPW. And this is for, at Maple Crest, for the 3 fields to do some leveling, cutting outside, infield repair. And if approved through this borrowing, you'd have likely second reading when we approve the budget in May, 20-day estoppel period for the bond ordinance, which means we're awarding contracts in June. And
Too
then
late. It's too late.
that's fine. So if that's the opinion of the
Okay.
township committee, then you have an opportunity to put this in the operating budget and it become available
So
early.
the option here is to reduce this 380 by some number, or just leave it at 380. Yeah. But when we talk about the operating, to include in the operating whatever number is, so we can get this thing done sooner rather than later.
Becomes
Okay.
available sooner. And actually, we could even put it in the temporary budget and get it done before final.
Right.
budget.
Okay. Community center flooring, that's 2601. You dropped that.
Yep.
That's under community services. 2601, you dropped that.
Yes,
Okay.
it's in good shape. I think the look of it,
Okay.
there's an interest in maybe
I
improving.
think it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Community center signage, okay, no change there. The Memorial Park lighting, I think we all agree that we're not ready to, we haven't had any conversation with the community about this.
We haven't had any,
To say the least.
Is there anything special about the police vehicles or equipment? I think we went through
No.
this the last time.
Just to note that some of the police items that were dropped upon further investigation, they wouldn't qualify for borrowing. So because they useful life and total cost. And so some of those items have been moved into the operating budget. Specifically the tracker property evidence maintenance moved into the operating budget. SDX traffic data, it is a software. It's used for you can get phone data and find out how fast people are driving and kind of where they're to and from and some other data around there. Very useful, not a capital item, and also not something I think we can absorb into the operating budget this year, but something we'll probably keep an eye on because if there's an opportunity, we might want to use that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions generally?
what are in the vehicles and equipment? That's just a very,
Say that again?
vehicles and equipment, what is that?
Police vehicles. Yeah, just because they're.
That's all police? That's under
No, DPW. We went
Oh.
through that.
I'm sorry. So,
So on.
yeah, we can go with.
2601. We talked about buildings and grounds. We didn't talk about vehicles and
Yeah,
equipment.
so
We went through that in the, oh, go ahead.
But we can speak, I can speak to that now if you'd like. In 20, and let me just pull up the general capital, in DPW. Okay, so vehicles and equipment specifically, on high priority, they're looking for a bucket truck. They currently have a 26-year-old bucket truck, which is at the end of its useful life. They're looking to replace that for $205,000. A Freightliner, the current, one is 31 years old beyond the end of its useful life. And a roll-off truck, they have one that's 20 years at the end of its useful life. And so those are the high priority items that they would like funded in this year, and is rolled into that number.
Okay, that's helpful. I do understand that there is equipment that they would need for field maintenance that they do not currently own. So if that's not in here, then that would impact our discussions on who would be handling field maintenance if they don't have that equipment currently. So thank you for that explanation.
Okay. Looking at administrative recommendation 3, are there any, and this is to the township committee, is there any line that you'd like to see either change downward or upward? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Donnell bike lanes included for this year. I feel like if we're going to go through the effort of having community conversations, I don't see why we can't talk about Prospect and Donnell. I feel like Donnell connects to Parker and it goes to the train. We see the bike racks full of bikes every single day. So clearly people are going to the bike and going to the train and from the train. And so it is absolutely being used, and including making the bike lanes there just makes it safer. So that one seems farther along than Prospect, but we are also doing Prospect this year. And I think that'll be a little bit more of a heavier lift. But I don't see why we wouldn't do both of them and why we would hold off one for the next year. That's what I think.
Is there anyone who has a difference of opinion to that?
I have a question. When are we doing Prospect? Repaving and all that?
This year, we talked about this fall.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
this fall, if we can hit our deadlines. I think the reality is it's not going to happen this year.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
Although there is some urgency there because of the state grant. We have to spend it by a certain day.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can get an extension. It's just we have a lot of work to do in talking to the community.
Yeah.
I think
mean,
that's a much heavier lift.
I think it's, I don't know how pragmatic it is to move both of these forward at the same time. I would propose that we move forward with Denell and not Prospect this year. I just think that that's an easier project, if I may, as opposed to Prospect. But we do have that state grant, and I don't know the particulars of the timing of that.
Yeah, I think, I don't know the dates, but, so this is, we don't, as opposed to the operating, we can put money in here, and if we don't spend it this year, we can spend it next year.
Fair.
This gives us bond authorization, so it allows us to do the projects.
Mhm.
I think there's a good reason to put all these in here, both of these in here, because if not, we're going to be talking about this next year at this time, and then we're going to have to wait till June or July to actually start the project. If we put it in now, then the money will be there, and if we can wrap these things up and do the paving now or do the striping now when the weather breaks, we would get it done now.
Yep.
So I'd be interested in, I don't think you have to take one out to put the other in. We can do both, I think. So I would be in favor of putting in Donnell, 250 Donnell.
I'm good with that too.
Okay.
What is the timing? I just want to know what the timing is for the Greenway so that we can be in coordination with the rest of it in South Orange. Because I feel like they still have a ways to go. So is that why we're thinking that this would be next year?
Yes. I think that's what it is. I don't think we're clear about South Orange's plans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Because that's still I just want to make it clear that's still a priority. But yeah, they have Chiswick to get through, which is a lot.
Correct.
And
Yeah. The other thing is, I think that we've seen conceptual, is it concrete versus brick?
right.
All that. That
And
has a
yeah,
lot to do with
yeah.
how much.
Absolutely. And we don't know the
Concrete's gonna be a lot less than
details.
500,000. If it's brick, it's 500,000.
Why I asked.
And
Yeah.
I think
We need
we've
more
got,
information on
yes,
that. Yeah.
absolutely.
All right. I just want to make it clear that that's still a priority, but I think the timing makes
Right.
sense. Yeah.
So I know we've been talking about traffic calming. The 300,000 is 100,000 more than last year. Is everybody okay with that 300 number?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if money grew on trees, I would spend more, but 300 is 100 more than we did last year. This is a very important thing that we focus on. So I'm happy that it's higher than last year.
Yeah, but I
And
think
keeping in mind that some of the other things that we're doing are traffic calming as
Correct,
well, the
correct.
bike lanes and stuff. Sorry, Miss Adams.
the enforcement, though, I think is going to make a big difference with pedestrian safety because we're coming up, raising our percentage of tickets and moving violations and all that. And once a town gets a reputation that their police department are enforcing, people slow down and get more careful. So I think that's important improvement.
What about 2601? I'm a little uncomfortable not having anything in there. I understand the utility has a lot of work to do. They're going to be opening up a lot of roads. But I thought we had some sort of agreement, maybe not an official one, after the last workshop to put a little bit of money in there. We didn't know how much that was going to be because we wanted to find out from you um, which roads maybe will not be included and so on and so forth.
Engineering is still working with New Jersey American, to finalize those roads and finalize, maybe even be further along in the process, right? So we couldn't confidently say what the number was for this year. Beyond a need, though, my thought was more about capacity, right? I think we're going to be paving a lot of roads this year. We being New Jersey American Water and potentially PSE&G with some work that they're going to start later in.
But this doesn't include, New Jersey Americans' work won't include reconstruction of any roads.
We do have a separate line right under this. So 2602
Good,
under engineering
okay.
is municipal road reconstruction. So on roads that New Jersey American Water is repaving, we may still be doing fully accessible curbs or general curb repair, manhole inlet resets.
But that's
drainage
still not
inlet
reconstruction.
So that's all in that line for work that we would do in parallel to New Jersey American Water's work.
Yeah. I share, I think that this, first of all, I'm not sure why we have to split 2601 and 2602. That we should just have a municipal road reconstruction and repair, and if it gets spent on an New Jersey American Water Street, that's fine. If it gets spent on someone else's street, that's fine too. I think roads need to be addressed every year. I understand capacity questions and all that, but I would be interested in taking that out of number 2 and putting it into number 1 just for general road reconstruction. And I would be interested in bumping it up another 250,000 and leave the 500 in there for the same reason I mentioned about the Prospect Street, is that if we put that money in this year, then we can start earlier next year to focus on the road program. I think we start way too late with the road program. We get crowded out for good contractors because we don't start until August. And we also run into all kinds of other problems with school starting and all that because, we're always, and then we're running into always the cold weather around Thanksgiving. So I'd be interested in putting that money and bumping it up to 500.
I don't know that, is it an accounting thing, just a bookkeeping thing, like you wanted the line separate because this is sort of a one-off that New Jersey American is doing it? I have no problem with them being separated, as far as, unless it precludes us from using some of that money to do the first line. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it should be.
Good question.
Kate's conversation to have them separated,
Yeah.
but when we go to use them, it would be
They'd be the
helpful to
same.
have them together. So that's fine. That's fine. As long as, there's an agreement on the number of 500. I will say that adding 250 to this will likely exhaust this money this year. I appreciate the idea of having money available
Yeah, well,
next year, but that's just realistically, I don't want the township committee to the, if there is some left over, maybe we have, I don't know, 125,000, but we're likely not going to roll out a bid package for $125,000 of work next year. What we could do though is maybe in the fall or earlier in the year next year, we could approve borrowing for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about that in finance because I think we ought to borrow this year for the road program next year so we can just start earlier. We're always too late. But listen, if this gets spent 500,000 on roads, I'd be happy because I think there's at least 500,000 on road repairs.
Yeah, roads are expensive.
We hear it all the time about roads.
Very expensive.
And we drive on them too.
Yeah.
Anybody object to adding another 250 there?
no, I
Nope.
don't object to it. I just want to, I think, I feel like next year it's probably going to have to be bigger than the normal million, a little bit more than a million that we traditionally go for road program. And a lot of there are some roads, and I mean reconstruction, not just repaving. That's what New Jersey American is just going to repave. They're not going to be ripping it down to the cobble and reconstructing the road. Those are two very different things. And there are several roads that just from my lame, non-engineer eye, look to be something that needs more of reconstruction than just repaving. So.
Okay. So what we've done is we've increased the road reconstruction from 250 to 500, and we've included bike lanes 250, so we've added 500,000 here. Any other additions, subtractions? Anyone wants to?
I have a
argue
couple
for-
of questions. Under building improvements, so 2604A, there's building improvements, various locations, and then building improvements, Woodland. So what are the various locations? Because that stayed in all the way to the end at a slighter amount.
Yeah, so 2604.
It might be because you have a grant, you have grant
50
number.
Well,
That's for the wood.
That's for the.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why they're.
No, they're separate lines.
So under that one, and let's see, that total line is how much?
You have it down to 420.
$425,000. Okay, so this includes $150,000 miscellaneous improvements, $200,000 for the police department heat pump, $75,000 for the Woodland PIV valve. That's part of the fire suppression system, and it's in need of replacement. And so that is what rolls up into the, let's say, 200, 350, yeah, 425.
Okay.
So miscellaneous, police department heat pump, 200, and Woodland valve.
And then for the Woodland 300, you've got in your note that it's so it's like it's a 1.4 million project, 50/50 cost share, and 525 has previously been appropriated. And so you're suggesting another 300. What does that entire total project encompass? Because
It's a big number.
that's the previous number that dates back a bit, I think.
Say that last piece again. Previous number that,
Yeah, I'm just asking for a little background on that last piece of the Woodland.
sure. So there's some that the township, there's some parts of the project that the township committee has already authorized borrowing for and started some amount of work on. That's the doors, and with the side lights, the windows above the doors, removing the aluminum siding, exposing the windows above the doors, and there's some staircase repair there as well that needs to be done. Then, as a result of the woodland preservation plan, where an architect went through and evaluated the structural components of the woodland, they identified a need to make improvements in the ceiling above the Great Hall. And that's an expensive piece of this project. Unfortunately, that the public won't generally see, but it has to be done. That it has been added into the project. We received that grant from the.
So if we've already appropriated 525, have they started any of that work? Because why are we appropriating more if we haven't even spent, are we trying to get it all together so we could do one
We're gonna put
package?
that together with one bid package. The work that we've done so far is architecture work, and we've repaired one door on the Great Hall. And that was more exploratory.
It's like we already approved the curtain, but that never got changed. Is that going to be part of this?
Not going to
Like,
be.
I'm not sure why we
That's
approved
a
that
diff-
last year and that never even got
That's a-
done.
That's a different.
Oh,
It
okay,
makes
that's
more
part of the
sense.
Woodland. Sorry, okay.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so the curtain was appropriated for separately and unable to be installed so far because of separate issues. I think, you have added some money to that because we realized it needed more work than was originally envisioned. I don't know, and I know we were going back out to get proposals for that work. I don't know where it is today. in terms
So
of-
I just want to be, because
It's
like
not
the,
included in-
okay, so that's separate. So the Woodland, so the big thing is the ceiling, which was part of the recommendation, it needs to be done, the stair work. And then we're all aware of the windows that are been blocked out, and that's related to the siding outside. And then the door, did we ever end up having a finalized agreement on moving forward with the doors at a certain price point? I think that was, the
Yes.
doors are pretty expensive.
The doors we're removing the doors and rebuilding them and reinstalling them. And we have done one door so that we understood the nature of the work and the cost of the work. And that will be included. Then all the doors following that same pattern will be included in this bid.
And remind me how much the doors are?
That one specifically was more expensive. I had to go back and look, but it was in maybe around $20,000.
And we have a lot of doors. So, but I just want to make sure like we're all, because I think when the Woodland presentation was made, we were looking at it as, okay, we can't do everything at the Woodland, but we're going to prioritize it.
And these are the priority pieces, yeah. And I think most people have seen the conditions of the doors, so everyone's in agreement that the doors need to be replaced. And just the nature of the work, they're going to be more expensive. And we hope that packaging them all together in a larger bid will give us the best pricing.
I still don't like how expensive the doors are.
Me neither. No, I mean, they're expensive.
Like they've.
Those are very expensive. They got to take all the framing out. It's very expensive. And
Well,
Labor.
We're fortunate, and I think that's part of the reason we get this type of grant from the state. Everyone understands the expense it is to maintain a historic building, and that's part of the reason why we're getting $700,000 from the state to do this
Right.
work. We're making another application this year for another $700,000. We'll continue to make those applications.
So if we
No.
got more grant funding, that would then free up some of this?
No, it's
No,
matched.
it'd be.
it's matched.
Keep it
Yeah.
matched.
It's all matched.
yeah.
I mean, technically, if we're matched, then, you know, we're appropriating a little bit more than what we need for the match, but I get it, cushion.
Yeah, there's a little bit of cushion in here.
Was that, so back to the door, and we're belaboring the doors, and as committee member Adams noted, it was actually in the $40,000 range originally. So it's like half now, believe it or not, to do our historic door. I remember the last time I attended an engineering and planning meeting, we were still awaiting to hear from State Preservation Commission whether or not the door that we did build was acceptable to them. Do we have that now? The one door,
I don't know.
I don't expect that
meaning
that was-
acceptable to them as terms of,
Yeah, that wasn't they had reviewed the bid document before it went out, and I know that they had approved it. I wasn't aware that they were coming back to inspect the work. I do know that there was a discussion about going to the state regarding doing a rebuild of the door and using a prefab door.
Right.
But
That was. a
you know,
while
the
ago.
way we're moving forward, because of this whole bid package and because we think by the work we've done on the first door, that we can responsibly put out for a rebuild of all the doors instead of requesting the state to consider a prefab door. Do you know? So that was my recollection of where that conversation was left off.
Well, and all this the grant money is only available because we went through the process of the architect and getting it to a point where we could apply. I forget what it's called, where we could apply for these historic grants, which we couldn't do a few years ago when we
We have
started
a
talking
his-
about the door.
We are, because of the Historic Preservation Commission and the work that they do,
Right.
we are a certified local government for the state when it comes to our historic properties. And we completed a historic preservation plan for the woodland, and
Right.
those two things make
That's
us
what it
eligible
was.
for these grants. And very competitive because of the amount of use. It's not a historic home. We are continually programming in there, so we are competitive for these grants.
Yeah, which will really help with the costs that's why we went for that. Yeah.
Okay, any,
So if you take the total project cost, divide it in half,
Mhm.
and then subtract the 525, in order to make our 50/50 cost share, it would be like 200,000, not 300,000. So if I'm just saying it's $100,000 extra if we're looking to
You-
fit other things into the budget. That's all.
Part of that is, is it the interest of the township committee? Maybe there's 10 or 12 doors there. So if you want to cut out costs, is there an interest to do 6 doors as opposed to 8, or do some of the siding and not all of it? Like, you'd have to start cutting things out of the project at points where there's not a clean break.
Well, I'm just going by the total cost you have listed here.
Right, but you're looking at, the total costs are 1.4 million. There's $700,000 grant, and we have 525 previously appropriated. So we
Right.
need to appropriate some amount to come up to the 700,000.
Right, so if you take the 700 minus the 525, that's all I'm saying.
Right, but,
Because we have an extra 100,000 in there that we don't need for the match.
right, we do. And that's to cover portions of the project that we are all combined, doors, windows, siding. So if you were to lower and you're right, we only need 700 plus 700. The township only needs to put in 700, so we could reduce it to that amount. But then we are taking things out of the project. There's not a clear,
But then the total project number should be higher then, right? I'm just going with the total project number.
the total project.
So if you take the total project number,
Mhm.
divide it,
Okay,
I mean,
And there's a little.
Oh,
bit of-
I see. You're saying,
there's a little
you're
bit
saying the
extra.
grant is 700. So if you do 700 for 700 is for, so, okay, but still you're appropriating more
understand.
than is,
But the grant
understand
isn't
your-
covering,
yeah.
There's a little bit extra built in here.
Right, that's all I'm
No
saying.
doubt about it.
That's all I'm saying.
So
If we're
it's a
looking to
$1.4
try
million
and,
project.
Do you want to make a recommendation or not?
I want to talk about this whole thing so that we can see where we might agree to move things around. I'm not sure that this is the place, but I'm just asking.
No, it is the place. I'm not sure what you mean, that you move things around. What are you talking about? Moving the capital budget?
We're added in more for the roads, which I agree with. We added in Donnell, which I agree with, but then that bumps us up at the bottom line, right?
Right.
And so we're looking for other areas that we might want to reduce. Is that correct?
I'm not, no.
No.
I don't think we have to. Well, I think this is a capital, so this is not a one for one. So this is money that will stay in the capital accounts. And as we have woodland activity next year, this money will be applied to that. So we wouldn't have to maybe put that in next year. So we don't have to do a one for one because these accounts live past 2026.
So if you could explain again, for the total number, if we're above 7 million, so it looks like we're around like 8 million.
At
How does that affect our,
So I think that to meet the grant, and even the project cost, there's a need for $175,000. We've submitted a request for 300,000 extra, basically, right, in this. So we don't need the full amount. It's a $1.4 million project on a historic building with pre-qualified contractors. We'd submit that it's reasonable to put a little extra in that budget.
yeah, I don't want to take any out of it, just
I would
one-to-one match.
I would say that, you know, this well, now it's going to be $8 million. This includes $3 million for DeHart.
Mhm.
This is a one-time project
Yeah.
that we cannot let crowd out the other things that we have to do. So this is and I had this discussion with Patrick yesterday about it, that I don't think we should have included this 3 million. Obviously, it's part of the thing, but we always talked that the $3 million for DeHart was going to be a standalone
We
project.
talked about
just
that
like-
being separate, yeah.
Just like the library was a standalone
Yeah.
project, because if you include it in here and say,
Yeah.
want
then
to keep
it-
7 million out.
You
that
can't,
means You're
you can't.
spending $4 million on
Yeah.
stuff here
Yeah.
as opposed to 7.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So
That's a good point.
I don't think we need to cut anything. In fact, and we don't need to add anything because it's, you know, the 3 million is we're borrowing it, but I would not be so concerned about going over $8 million here because $3 million of that is DeHart.
And can you just go over what that means,
For tax impact.
tax impact?
So you would not have to budget the 5% in the 2026 calendar year budget. Right now, your capital request for column admin 3 is about $8.2 million using round numbers. So the appropriation for the 5%, the down payment would be $410,000. That will come from your capital fund balance. The only effect would be the annual debt service. That will come later once we go out to the market and have an official statement and we sell notes. We'll let you know what we come back, what the impact will be. As far as what the mayor said too, the debt service pledge from DeHart Park Hill renovation will come from the open space fund.
Well,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
May,
May.
because they haven't
They
agreed to
haven't
that.
agreed to yet. May, excuse me, come from the open space trust fund. Any other
And-
question?
Okay.
I think for the
Thank you.
larger budget impact, we had asked our financial advisor to look at the amount of borrowing we approved each year and on a 10-year capital program, which is, you know, generally a blended useful life for $7 million. The increase each year is for the most part between 2 and 3%. And so that's what they were saying, that responsibly you could approve that amount each year without negatively impacting like
Yeah.
budget's natural growth.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That really helps. And Mayor, you're right. We talked last year about keeping DeHart out of the budget thing, but I think honestly, by putting it in, if you take the 8 minus the 3, we're at 5 when usually we'd be at
Right.
7. So it's forced us to tighten our belt by 2 million.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing. So
And the only reason
So yeah,
the only reason I left it in is on the finance side, not how you guys think about it, but on the finance side, we get the debt service bill and it's one bill, right? We got
Right,
to fit it
right,
into the
right.
budget. So that's just why but I do appreciate that there's a difference in approach here.
yeah. All right, I'm good with this. I
Okay.
think,
Anybody else on the municipal capital? We'll go to pool capital. There are two items here.
Yes.
One is an awning of 11,000, one lobby flooring. You're recommending both?
Yes.
Wait, where's
Should be a tab.
There's a tab on the bottom that says,
Very bottom.
on the top?
yeah. Which is the awning?
this would be the awning on the Bromine House. It's a new addition to the pool. So, you know, the Bromine House, if you walk into the pool on the left-hand side, kind of halfway back is the new building that the municipality built 4 years ago,
The pump house?
the pump house.
Thank you.
Yes. So
You're calling it the Bromy?
yes. So it would come, and right against that house is a lot of deck space. So it would come off of that.
Because we had to take so many trees out to build that building.
Mm.
Okay. Any other questions on the pool?
Now we need to buy.
Stormwater utility?
So this is, general stormwater projects that engineering has teed up for this year. And we, it's a little more than we bring in or right around what we bring in the stormwater utility. And we expect going forward, it's just the utility will pay for more and more debt service. So this is mostly of a balanced request against what we receive in revenue.
We bring in over 800,000. I think
Yep.
we're budgeting 875 this year or something
Yep.
like that, right? Any
We have-
questions on this stormwater utility?
I don't know what that rain garden at the pool parking lot, but we're not doing it this year anyway.
Hmm.
So I'll have a
Open
year to
s-
learn about it.
Open Space Trust Fund.
Yeah, there is a column here that is changed from the last time we had this discussion, and that's admin recommended. So all these projects have gone to the Open Space Committee. They've made their recommendation. So then I've made my recommendation here because the Township Committee doesn't have to follow the OSTF recommendation. I think from the last time we talked, there was a $10,000 request for the inoculation of ash trees. We do have money from prior year OSTF approvals. We can pay for that. So we took that out of this year's budget. And I've changed for debt service for the DeHart Field. I had originally requested 250,000. They had recommended 100,000. I'm recommending 365,000. The reason is we looked at how much debt service would cost on that improvement, and I shared that with the Township Committee prior. But generally, on a $3 million improvement, the debt service will be about $260,000 a year if it was a 10-year improvement. Or I'm sorry, if it was a 15-year bond. At a 10-year bond, it would be $360,000. So each year, we're going to do that or it's already started, as just a general bond. It's not pledged to get money from open space. Each year, we can make a request to open space and see if they're able to fund debt service for DeHart Field. This year, I recommend going above what the OSTF had recommended because we generate each year about $621,000 in revenue into open space. And we have from last year $165,000. So that leaves us $787,000 this year that could be allocated to projects. Open Space has recommended, the committee has recommended $525,000. So that leaves a lot of money in the bank that sits in the bank earning interest. At the same time, we're talking about paying interest on money we borrow at a higher rate. So financially, that just, at least on the finance side, doesn't make sense. So I'd recommend, if we have the capacity this year, pledge as much to DeHart as we can. It lowers the amount that we're going to end up borrowing when we end up borrowing. And each subsequent year, we can make requests to OSTF for debt.
Hang on. So I thought that what you said just now is very interesting because it does not align with the presentation to OSTF about this particular item, or at least it was not understood by OSTF in the manner that you presented it, namely the issue of whether or not the recommended contribution to the DeHart Park Field improvement is not going to be locked in for 15 years, year after year. We can change it year after year. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying today?
Yes.
But that is not what was said before.
Well, because open space chose to fund at a lower amount and we can't support the bond with the amount that they would be comfortable with. So instead, when the township committee considered the bond for this, it's just a general bond. So the township is obligated to pay it, whether we pay it out of our general debt service or we pay it with a contribution from open space. It could have been the other way. We could have said, this is going to be the debt service. This debt service is going to be supported by open space, but we don't have funding in that, in a high enough amount to support that.
Right, because the reason why OSTF recommended the way that they did is because at 365, they understood that that would be a locked-in amount for 15 years, year after year. And so if you look at what we generally bring in, that's more than 50% of their annual, of the annual generated funds in the trust fund. And then they thought about other projects that we know we have to do that we're kicking down the road, like the duck pond, what's the term of art? Dredging and whatever that's called, which is going to be a very expensive project, and some other projects. So they were concerned, rightfully so, reasonably concerned about locking themselves in for 15 years for more than 50% of their annual revenue.
And that's battle scars.
That's what?
That's battle scars. OSTF has lost,
Oh, battle scars. Yes.
for
Yes.
years for purchases by the township that, came out of OSTF and then kind of left very little to do open space.
So
I think battle scars were the words that were used in that meeting.
I can appreciate that from the prior conversation.
Yeah.
So the OSTF, to be clear, is not obligated in any year, and certainly not even in this year, to spend any money to support debt service for the Hartfield improvements. They don't have to spend a dollar. This year, there's capacity there that would otherwise go unused, and I recommend we support as much as that capacity allows, but no obligation for future years.
So I think we should so the OSTF is an advisory committee, and based on the information they had, they made certain advice. Now we have additional advice, so we have additional information from our administrator. We can either go with the OSTF or we can change it, and we don't have to go with what the administrator. We can anywhere between 0 and 375. We can decide.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that.
Right. So that's where we are right now. So I think you're absolutely right. This is an annual decision that gets made by the Township Committee. And I think I share some of the concerns about sort of anticipating that 50% of our open space money is going to go to DHART debt. I don't think that was ever contemplated I think we want to, our goal should be to try to increase our open space.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I have a question about the park trees. We've had a lot of park trees, thankfully, gratefully, and needed, planted the last, 5 years. We've committed a lot of money, and open space cannot be used for street trees. So this is just park trees, but we've planted a lot of them. I'm wondering if there's some wiggle room for this year on the park trees. Yeah, I know it's only 25,000
Reduce the amount?
Yeah, to reduce the amount, or because I'm not sure what the plan is. Is it because we planted, I can't even count how many at Maple Crest, right? And also at Memorial, since we got the tree planting plan done. So I'm just wondering I don't know the answer. So I don't know where else we're planning. These are probably for other parks, I would expect, like Borden and different parks that haven't gotten the tree replacement done. So I'm fine with leaving it in there. I just thought of it when I was reading this.
And again, if it's not used this year, it can be held for a future year.
So I just wanted to be clear on the OSTF. We're recommending, or you're recommending, to spend all of the things that they requested.
Yes.
So
They didn't request them.
Well, all the requests that they considered and approved.
Requests that were made of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to say is that if you're suggesting bumping up the DeHart debt service, then that's not at the expense of something else that they requested that they're not going to be able to fund. I just want to make clear
Right.
because
Not this year.
not this year.
Right. It's.
I'm sorry, can I frame this that it's not them and us?
Correct.
They're an advisory.
Yes, I
This is
understand
the
that.
Towns, this is the.
But as
township's
we're talking,
money.
as
This is our decision.
yes.
Right, well,
Okay.
all of
Yes,
it's.
absolutely. But as we're talking about battle scars, I want to make sure that, that we do this in a collaborative way with our advisory committee. So I am fine with what is proposed right here. I think it makes sense to use the money that is available this year. If there isn't anything else on the horizon that we're saving it for, that I'm just not aware of. That's all I was trying to say.
Well, you see, okay.
Well, the
Yes,
duck
I
pond.
agree with the mayor's approach and we should move forward. But again, there's something staring at you right there. $750,000 for the duck pond reconstruction and dredging.
Why didn't they recommend spending
We're not recommending it. It's not we and them. That is a project that we don't practically think we can even get to this year, all things considered, in terms of actually doing it. But that is something that's getting kicked down the road, and we know that it's a priority.
Well, the OSTF didn't recommend any money for that. Why didn't they?
Because administration said we're unlikely to get to that project this year.
And I have to say that for engineering or DPW or administration to ask for 750,000 for this, and we don't ask, I assume this is the whole cost, or is this?
Oh, God.
Yeah, we don't ask, I mean, we don't have $3 million for DeHart Park in here. So I don't
Right.
even understand why they would put this in here, because it's going to be bonded. And the only thing that we would potentially ask them for is some payment towards that bond, similar to what we're
Sure.
that. So, yeah, I think the duck pond needs to be discussed, and we need to schedule it up for future capital, not an OSTF.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense to put 750, more than we even get a year. So,
Okay.
all right, what do you want to do here? And so the big thing here is the difference between what was recommended by OSTF and administration is an additional 365, 265
265. Yeah.
for DeHart debt service and no money for the ash tree. What's that about?
We have money from prior years.
So we're good with that. We don't need any more money in there.
But you're using the money for prior years. Are you saying you're using different money for, you're not using open space money for the ash tree?
It was a previous year allocation from open space. That's still it's still in the open space trust fund earmarked for inoculation of ash trees.
Okay, I know it's biannual. It's like every other year that
Yeah.
inoculate. Are you saying they put it in and then get inoculated? Like what?
Or maybe it got put in 2 years.
I don't know.
Oh, maybe we didn't skip the year.
It's
I
there,
know that
it's there.
when I look in the trust fund, there's 10,000 plus in that account.
Okay.
Use that this year. And I,
So what is the pleasure of the township committee with this 365? This would mean that we would have a balance in an unallocated balance of about $8,000.
Yeah, we're cutting it all the way to almost zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable about
Yeah, me
that.
too.
Yeah, me too.
What about
250.
give me any number. I mean, you don't have.
250, 265? How about cutting 100,000 off that 365?
That's fair.
We don't like to, you know what? Your head gets too big if we just agree with everything you recommend.
Yeah.
What do we do? What do we do with money that's sitting in the open space that is just not spent? Like, what is that? How does that, do we use it throughout the year for other things or it just
You could
rolls into next year? Like, what's the benefit of
You
it? Just
could
sitting there?
choose later this year to make an appropriation from open space trust. Otherwise, it sits in an account, it earns interest, and it's available for next year, just like the
165.
165 was available from last year that hadn't. been
Yeah.
appropriated.
And we
Yeah.
could do that at a separate time, separate from the budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could, if you
then I
wanted.
would-
Like if something came up.
Yeah,
could
I
if-
like that then.
And I just have one other comment to make because we haven't discussed it anywhere else in capital. The Duran Hedden House had requested $25,000 for the roof replacement of the main building there, which was is included in this final recommendation. That's a bigger project, maybe around $425,000.
Mhm.
It also asked the township for money, but didn't have an exact number on it. And they have some money already approved in a roof fund. They expect to do fundraising on it. So we're not exactly sure we don't have a good estimate for the project cost. We don't know how much they're going to contribute. And so it's hard to figure how much we're going to contribute. The engineer and I spoke with the architect that's done 90% of the plans for the roof replacement there. And he is confident that we can wait until 27 to do the work. I haven't spoken to Duran Hedden about that yet because I want to have the conversation here first. But I would speak to them about doing the fundraising that they intend to do, knowing how much that fundraising is going to contribute to the project. At the same time, there's $25,000 here that we can use to get final architecture plans, a really tight budget estimate, and then we'll bring this back to the township committee next year.
Okay. So I'm hearing we're going to drop the 780,604 to 680,604.
Mhm. I have a question, Patrick. What's the rate on that the interest rate? What's the bank rate? And just give me the three rates across the board and how we're saving in doing what you recommended compared to what we want to do. And what's that number if we leave 30% in the trust fund?
I haven't done the analysis on that.
I think we
specific
need to
amount.
look at that.
We know offhand what the rates are. I know that generally the rates we borrow at are higher than the interest we'd get.
For this particular recommendation you're making, what was that rate?
So we don't know the rate yet. We wouldn't know until we go out to the market after you authorize the
Okay.
ordinance. And then when we go to issue the debt, we would know at that time. It all depends on
Do you have any
the
idea?
federal rate.
Like,
Yeah, because you were
any
making a
idea, like
recommendation.
ballpark?
Yeah, to see what the.
Under
rates are.
4%, definitely under 4% with you guys.
Under
Credit
4%.
rating under 4%.
So will we be leaving based on the recommendation, at least 30% in the trust fund or a certain, is that 30% of what we have left if we take some of that money out?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. I can't hear you that well.
We had said we're gonna leave some money in, right? So what's that percentage look like?
What is that
Yeah.
earning?
What do we earn?
I mean,
What percentage do we-
3.3% on your interest on investments right now. 3.3%.
So there's a gap between, so let's say we borrow at 4 and we're earning 3.3.
So you'd be paying 0.7%. And
So it's not a huge gap.
Yeah,
Well,
And
that,
it gives us a little flexibility.
yeah,
and that's the whole reason he wanted to put the 365.
correct.
Right.
Right,
All right,
right.
Right.
Okay.
But we're,
Yeah.
I think
The 265.
65.
yeah.
I like that approach too. Are we all good with that?
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. SEFD, I think this can be quick and then we can go over to the eggs. Patrick?
Yes, sorry, I'm just making notes so I can changes incorporate. Okay, OSTF, the top part of this remains exactly the same as the last time you saw it, $180,000 for costs that we would share with South Orange. The bottom did change. There is a $350,000 request for a new ambulance for SEFD. Since it's an ambulance, the township bears all of the cost for this. I met with the mechanic and our mechanic and our fire chief. We have two ambulances right now, one from 2016, one from 2017. They not frequently, but more than we'd like, break down. There have been times over the last year when both ambulances are in for repair, which we don't like to have that occurrence. And so there's a request here for a new ambulance, $350,000.
What's the life of an ambulance? 10 years?
About 10 years. You know, some of the problem is both of the ambulances we have now are diesels. Ambulances do a lot of idling while they're at calls, and idling is not good for diesels. We would get a gas ambulance. Maybe that extends useful life a little bit, but it just depends on the amount of runs they do. But it's an emergency vehicle. It takes a good amount of impact, but
Are there
10
electric
years.
ambulances?
And what's that?
Are there electric ambulances yet?
If there
I
are,
haven't-
we'll
I
find
haven't-
them and we'll
I
make a
haven't seen
suggestion.
any.
I haven't seen any, but we
I
can
haven't seen
definitely-
any.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
The other thing to note here is right now, the lead time on an ambulance is 3 years. So you're approving borrowing. There's a need now, but even with that,
No.
we'll be waiting a bit for an ambulance.
How many do we have and do we sell our used ambulances?
We have 2 and we sell them when we're done with them. So we'll make
Both?
some money back on it. Yeah. And there is some market for them,
Mhm.
like a plumber will use them for a
Why is this
utility truck.
just our cost?
Because South Orange does not use
No.
EMS. services.
Right.
We have-
Only provides Maplewood.
Well, they do runs in South Orange.
No,
No, not at all.
Not
No.
EMS now.
no, not the ambulance.
Oh.
Only Maplewood.
Right.
Only Maplewood has
South
an,
Orange
has an
first.
agreement with,
Thought they did like,
no.
okay.
Not the ambulance, yeah.
Okay. Any questions about this? So this would be $510,000. The total. When this ambulance, if we bond this now and put the order in this year, when do we get it?
Maybe 3 years. It could be sooner. I mean, these things fluctuate,
Yeah.
but right
That's the
now
reason-
it's
Oh,
3 years.
yeah, well, we're gonna need it in 3 years.
Right. So it's not like it's the end of
Yeah.
this year. We're making an investment now so that,
So that we'll
We'll
have it.
do everything.
Yeah.
2018.
We'll do everything we can to find one earlier. And that happens sometimes. Let's say a big department like Newark puts in an order for a lot of ambulances, but then there's one that they don't need and maybe we can pick it up off the floor. Like there are times when things like that happen, generally speaking.
But we should try and get the order in with a big order
Yes,
anyway.
we're eager.
All right.
so going back to,
Gotta get over there. Are you kidding?
so we're adding
We got time.
510 to this bottom line for SCFD, right?
You're adding, yes.
And the-
Well,
And the
We would
pool
add
is not
two.
in here either, right?
no. That's right.
Can we make a motion to adjourn and then we'll come back,
Recess.
recess?
I make a motion that we recess.
Second,
Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Collins Colding.
Yes.
Mr. Daffis.
yes.
Sermon. Mayor DeLuca.
Yes, thank you.
Call it at 12:20.
12:20, please.
12:20, the Easter egg hunt. Well, not egg hunt, not the Easter egg hunt. We call Russell, let's see if he left with the kids. Sure he's sitting at home, not taking the kids. We gotta get the egg.
Yes, Gary Nelson said battle scars. Those were his words.
Oh, I believe it.
He's been around.
Go across the street. I'm right behind you guys, to me. What do I need? Hey, you taking the kids? Okay, I'm heading over there, so I'll see you guys if you're there. Yeah, just.
Oh, great. You see us eating. Okay, welcome back to our budget meeting. Excuse us for eating. We took a recess to go to the egg hunt. That was over in 2 minutes, so. So just so we're clear, and then we can wrap up the capital. We added 500 to the municipal piece. We have the pool, 27,000 that has to be added. Nothing on the stormwater utility, right? That's separate.
Yeah, supported by,
Yeah, I understand. I'm just thinking that, and then SEFD, we have 510. And just the OSTF, we agreed to the administrator recommendations except for the DeHart Field improvement. We're going to have it at 265. All right, we're on the same page?
yes, I have all those notes, Mayor.
Okay, now,
Does the, so the bottom line on here on the capital does not include those other tabs. So that,
No.
so we're bonding for more than just that,
correct,
whatever, 8 million.
correct.
Mayor, did you want to take a roll call that you're back in session?
I
And,
certainly do, now that we're all here.
all right, Ms. Adams,
Here.
Collins Golding,
Yes.
Staffis,
Present?
Sermon,
Here.
Mayor DeLuca.
Present and accounted for.
Better.
I had to buy Girl Scout cookies.
Well, only to share, I hope.
I'll put it up. I
Okay,
will share.
For all those tabs.
say that again?
We have the grand total for those tabs
what is
outside of the OSTF and stormwater utility.
Grand total $9,491,984. Yes, it
Oh,
does,
that includes stormwater.
including stormwater.
Right, but if you
Okay.
take stormwater out, can you do that? 'Cause that's.
8,755,819 without stormwater. So that's 8.1 million, excuse me, $8,198,819 from the general capital tab, 27,000 from the pool tab, 180,000 for SEFD, and 350,000 for the ambulance. That comes to $8,755,819.
Okay, and of that 8 million, 3,150,000 is for DeHart Park. So that leaves us for other general capital costs somewhere around 5.4,
Correct, about 5.6, yes, sir.
5.6. Okay. Okay.
Great.
Right. The next thing on the agenda is revenue. And we did receive something last night, and if we go to notes on change, is that the best way to look at it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the easiest. So we'll go to.
Everybody
notes on-
let's make sure everyone's at that.
Budget prep 3/18/26.
Yes.
It's the spreadsheet.
Right.
Okay.
So at the top, we have changes incorporated into the 3/18/26 budget document. As a result of the prior workshops and potentially some conversations since, we have reduced the amount to be raised by taxation from 3% down to 2.95%. We have increased surplus from 2.7, which was in the original draft budget and is the amount we used last year. We've increased that to $3,003,314. We increased the joint meeting of Essex and Union County. That's our sewer payment to reflect the increase in the annual assessment from them. So their increase we pass on to ratepayers through a rate increase. So we'll see some additional revenue in that this year. And 7 West Parker, this is the first year that the billing, the pilot billing will rely on an audited statement. And so we revised that amount to show an additional $44,900 that we expect to receive this year as a result of those pilot payments. On the expense side,
Hold on, I want to make sure if anyone has any questions. So I have a question on 123-101, that's the joint meeting increase.
yes,
Do we have to increase the fee, the sewer fee?
to realize this increase in revenue, yes.
What is that increase?
Like per household or?
Yeah, per account.
I don't have that with me. And we had done this in prior years. We generally have a fee increase too. And this is just to absorb the increase in billing that we get from the joint meeting.
Right, but
So we
But I can calculate that for you.
It's about $3.50.
more.
Correct.
total. So, I mean, because usually we talk about this separately, right? We usually like say we have to, like, we're going from 275 to 300 or whatever per household as opposed
Yes,
to,
but it's included in the revenue to bring our
yeah,
number down to 295. So,
okay.
so just so so we get a bill from the joint meeting for our sewer,
Right.
and we pass that on to the homeowners and property owners, anybody who has a toilet. So,
Right.
that's what we're talking about. I don't even, do you know what the 2025 rate was?
Who's dinging? You gotta put your, turn off your sound. It's okay. You know,
2025, approximately $449. 2026, approximately $453.
Okay. And does that include the capital for a joint meeting?
Yes.
uh-huh.
Do you know?
And the capital isn't increasing. So just the piece that's increasing.
Yeah, I was actually looking for what is the assessment cost,
Yeah,
not
we,
with the
we
capital.
could give you, because I think that the bill is broken up into three pieces. I think there's
Right.
a regular fee and then.
You don't have that.
I don't have that with us. And I can provide that to the Township Committee after the meeting
Okay.
Monday.
All right. Any other questions on revenue?
Does this, does this anticipate the increases in some of the fees that been talking about? Or like, Mr. Palmer brought up those increases, does this budget and revenue anticipate the increases that we're talking about in fees?
Merit and new employees?
Recreation or
No,
what?
no, no.
For changing fees? No.
Okay.
They haven't been passed.
No, I know, but that's why I'm asking if it's
Yeah.
anticipating it or not.
No, unless we have an ordinance that's passed, we can't do it. So the $351,000 in additional fees, and it helps to get us down to that 2.95. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that means using the additional surplus of 300,000. Okay.
And how does that change us in terms of having a healthy fund balance? I know we talked about percentages changing from 2.7 to 3. How does that affect us overall?
We won't know just yet because we don't know how much surplus we regenerated as a result of 2025 operations. So that'll come with the AFS.
Because we don't have that,
Yeah.
yeah, that,
In prior years, maybe the last 4 or 5 years, each year we've been generating more than was anticipated the year prior. We've been running well. So there's some expectation that'll continue. We don't have any reason to think that won't continue, but we won't know until we see the AFS. The other part of that conversation though is that in our fund balance, at least at the end of 24, we had 10.6 million. So we used 2.7 as revenue in the budget last year, and we'll regenerate certainly a large portion of that. We're going to regenerate all of that. So we have a large amount of fund balance that gives us flexibility year over year in setting our tax rate and absorbing.
and we'll have the AFS before we introduce this?
That's our goal. If the Township Committee chooses to, you can introduce without the AFS. The AFS has to be done in order for the state to approve our budget before final adoption.
Right.
So typically we'll introduce, send the budget down to the state. Budget gives us clearance to adopt. So you can get it after the budget's introduced, but before it goes down to the state for approval. We'll
And
note
that's
that in the
the
next
AFS annual fund
financial statement.
financial statement for anyone who might be watching.
Yes, and that's an unaudited account of the township's financial position as of 12/31/25.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to expenses.
I have a quick question.
ahead.
It's not a question, but so the percentage that you want us is for the admin recommended would be about 3%. And anticipated last year was 3.6%, right? How do you get to your number without knowing what your actual numbers are? And then it's just a three-part question. How much tax revenue have we collected, and what do we estimate the percentage of the taxes collected represents in the delinquencies in order to formulate that number? How do you do it, Patrick?
So the tax collection rate is about 99%. Last year, the levy was 40 million. So you collected 99% of that. Your initial question was how do you,
Is that number in the budget? Because it looked blank when I looked at it. It was blank. Did you have all those numbers imported
oh, yes, yes.
on the sheet?
I'm sorry. Do we have those numbers?
On the sheet, included on the sheet.
So they'll be finalized with the AFS, and then we'll put the exact number, and that number is sheet 22 of the AFS. So once it's finalized, we'll drop it in. But the tax collection rate is 99% last year
Okay.
from the tax collector.
Okay.
In the first part, in terms of how do you set the rate, these are aspirational budgets, and so we'd like to we're looking to find a budget that is balanced at under 3%.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's our goal, and that leads into a lot of the cuts that we're recommending, a lot of the expenses that we're recommending. And so, but that's our goal.
Yeah, your percentages have been pretty accurate across the board, 3%, 2.9%. So I was just wondering how you came, without having your actual numbers.
Yeah. And if the 3% or the 2.95%,
Mm-hmm.
that is the rate that we will strike
Okay.
and that residents will receive as an increase on their tax bill. So that is definite. The piece we don't know about is how much of that do we collect, as we said, it's about 99. But there's no question of what we will assess to when you finalize the budget as to what the tax rate impact will be.
Okay. Just curious. Thank
There's
you.
an expense item for uncollected taxes, right?
There is.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, you saw that.
And the reason for that, and it can be a very large number because it's calculated off of all of the taxes that the township collects. So
Yeah.
we'll collect for the school district and for the county as well. So
Okay.
that can be a very large number.
So if we were to look at the document that says notes on changes and then hit back to revenue, we would be able to see those new numbers that you plugged into revenue, correct? Under administrative recommendation.
That's right. And in the section that says changes incorporated into budget document, that's correct.
Okay. All right, so let's go back to the notes on changes, and you've done some changing with expenses?
Yes, the South Essex Fire Department, after we presented this last time, had adopted their budget. One, it was lower than they had originally proposed, which gave us some relief. And two, they had some leftover allocations from prior year budgets that we will see returned to us. So those two things combined reduced the amount that we had expected to fund SEFD. The reduction was 242,000.
Okay.
There is a removal of the rehab contribution. This would fund our affordable housing trust fund, and we would use it for rehab obligations that we have in the fourth round. We had funded this amount with $50,000 last year, and because we haven't received our approval yet, we haven't started spending that money, and so we still have that $50,000 that we can use towards home improvement programs. So we have money already there this year, and we have a 10-year compliance period. So this will be an item that we'll fund in future years as well. But we don't need it this year. So that's been removed. We reduced the liability line we have for a joint insurance fund bill that we have received. We have money available in our self-insurance trust that we propose to spend that from. And there was a reduction in crossing guards. If you look on the budget side of it for 2025 actuals, we spent well less than the 2025 budgeted, and we made some correction there to give a more accurate reflection of what our pay will be this year.
But we didn't actually reduce the number of crossing guards.
Nope.
No, I think we actually added.
No, this is only about, and if you go,
It's only the budget line.
yeah,
Yeah, I just want to make clear that
Nope,
we did
no
not reduce
cuts.
this and
No.
it's not reducing it. It's
No.
just a financial,
We anticipate
Fine.
to spend less than what we initially notified you of.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. So if,
Want to make that clear.
yes,
Thank you.
I can pull, so just to give you color on that, on crossing guards, the 2025 appropriation was $420,000. We spent $372,000. When we originally presented the budget to you, we gave you that 420 with an increase, but being as we spent well less than last year, we recalculated that. So this is only a budget impact, does
Yeah.
not impact crossing.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Good move.
And to note that on the sheet that we gave you, it includes a column for 2025 appropriated. So that's what the Township Committee approved in the budget. Then it has a 2025 actual. So that's after transfers and 2025 actuals.
Yeah, so it's column T on the budget tab. That's the adopted numbers that you guys asked for. Column U is 2025 appropriated.
Thank you.
That factors in any transfers. So if you see a difference in T and U, there was either a transfer in if it's increased or a transfer out.
Thank you. So back to the notes on changes. That was all of the expenses. Are there any questions on this?
So just so we're clear, the 351, 686 in new revenues and the 405, 089 in decreases are built into the budget that you provided so far, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the capital we've already done, so we don't need to do that.
Yes.
So the remaining, and then the next group is the remaining to be incorporated into budget documents. There's some revenue there and expenses. So
Yes.
anything we do here will impact what you've provided us, right?
That's right.
So let's go down.
The 92 Burnett, we agreed to a new pilot agreement with them last year, and we're waiting. This will be the first year that we have a calculations off of their prior year audit. So we'll get that audit by the end of this month, but we expect that the 229 is based off what we received last year. We expect that number is going to increase to $305,000. We'll know that by the end of this month. And we're working a little bit now to try to get a finer point on that, but we expect that that's going to increase and that'll help revenue collections. We have pool surplus anticipated. Our auditor has finished, they're working on the EAFS. Part of that is the pool, and they have the number for what's in the pool surplus.
Yeah, so our pool schedule on our annual financial statement has been completed. So they were able to determine that there was $60,000 in cash surplus from the pool that can be anticipated in the pool. Thus, it'll reduce how much needs to be budgeted in the current fund because your pool expenses are higher than the revenue in the pool. So you have to balance the pool budget in the current fund. So this 60,000 reduces how much needs to be taxed in the current fund.
And in the 2025 budget, we had anticipated $50,000 from pool surplus. So this is a continuation of that. This will exhaust all of the pool surplus amounts. And yeah, it will exhaust all the pool surplus amounts. There is discussion about, pool having separate surplus because it's set up as a utility, so it would have a separate surplus. What happens if we dissolve that? But that conversation, I think, will take place later this year. But so this keeps it generally consistent with prior year allocation.
So as long as it's a utility, we have to show surplus, right? And it stays, yeah. If we were to eliminate the utility, there would be no such thing as a surplus.
That's right.
Correct?
That's right. It would just be general. There's also an ability to realize money from pool capital, $23,000 we have in the pool capital surplus. And we could, depending on all the changes that are discussed today, we could realize another $23,000 from there. The next few, national opioid settlement, we will receive approximately $28,000 this year. This wasn't included in last year's budget as revenue when the budget was adopted. It was done as a Chapter 159 after the budget was adopted. These amounts are generally known to us. These are as a result of court judgments. And so they lay out schedules for us of what we're to receive. So when it's a known amount, I suggest that we include that in our budget. This would mean, like in last year, not having budgeted and doing it later in the year, we likely kind of add to surplus. This year, we could include it in our general revenue. The next three lines, these are, they're noted as private grants, and this is what we receive from the agreements we have with the cannabis dispensaries here in Maplewood. Last year, these were included in the budget when we adopted it. We just hadn't put them in this year, and we should to keep our budget kind of consistent and also reflect our spending this year. So we propose to add the three of those. The combined total is $45,000. Then we received a health department grant. So this is new. I think you are aware of it by an email, but hasn't been discussed in previous budget conversations, and we haven't included it in any temporary budgets yet. But we have an opportunity to add that $181,000 that the health department has received with that grant. And then this number, so we have received $1.6 million from our insurance company for the IDA claim for damages to the library. So my recommendation and what I think is the responsible thing to do here is, since this is a reimbursement directly related to costs for the library, that we receive this $1.6 million and we add an expense into the budget to pay down the debt related to the library in that same amount. And that way it's not like a one-shot revenue that you're not going to realize in future years. There will be some revenue in future years. We're still owed a balance on here over $400,000 that we're waiting to get from some of the insurers. Hopefully, we receive that later this year. But we would recommend the same thing. Take that in as revenue, put it in an expense line, pay down the debt for the library.
So that's in an expense line somewhere else?
It is not yet, but it would be. Yeah. It would be.
Yeah, and I think we ended up having to do more bonding for the library than we wanted to. So this, and I think the FEMA money should be used to pay that down.
And there's another 400K we're expecting.
I'd have to look at the exact, I have it in my notes, but yeah, there's a balance of money because we're into reinsurance now, and it was a very, very large claim. And on the reinsurance side, it's paid from, I think it's 5 carriers. And so those carriers, each of them are paying at different timelines.
Mm-hmm.
All of them late for us. Like, we wanted the money, but that's why we're still waiting on some amount of that. But it's been approved and we expect money.
So we're accepting this as revenue, but and then we're also paying down at the same time?
You would.
That'll be in the budget as well?
That would be added to the budget. So you'll show a revenue 1.6.
Yeah.
And show an expense
Yeah.
1.6.
Okay.
So it would be budget neutral is the recommendation. You could, yeah.
So the bottom line here is that a little over 400,000 is some new revenue that you've identified.
Yes. Yeah.
You're saying no.
Well, it's not included in the budget document. Go on.
The grants would be budget neutral as well, because you would budget the revenue on the revenue side for each
Okay.
grant, and you would budget the appropriation as well. So it's about $158,000 of new revenue, 159 rounding up.
The difference there is for that grant in the proposed budget, or in the budget that it's actually still that you're seeing here, it includes expenses that grant will now cover. So there will be, there could be an adjustment in the budget for that.
Then we have any questions on these additional revenue? And just to be clear about these private grants, we have not struck an agreement with anyone for 2026.
That's right. Yeah.
So these may change.
Yes.
Is this sort of in line with what we got last year? in
Yes.
Those private grants?
Yes.
Yes.
Did the IDA claim cover all our expenses?
Mm,
What we put in, or
I know that without looking at it. Generally in insurance, it's not going to claim everything. It's not going to cover everything now.
what percentage of that number is?
I'd have to go back to the claim,
That's-
find out, but I can find out. Yeah.
We're also expecting some FEMA money, but that's 90% of our expenses. Okay, on the expenses, you've made some adjustments to some of these categories?
I propose some, because these remain to be incorporated, so I propose some changes here. First, on historic preservation, this is for a line we used to fund HPC operations. They had originally requested $31,200. That included, and they had made that presentation to you at the last meeting. I proposed to remove $6,000 that they had earmarked for a consultant to do individual designations. And they had also included $3,000 for transcripts during demolition hearings. I proposed to reduce that from 3,000 to 2,000, so that would reduce it another $1,000. So that 6,000 for the consultant plus 1,000 reduction for the transcripts reduces this line by $7,000, just over. That's number one. The second one, I mentioned this during the capital side, and the first number here should be a 6-01 because it's this year's budget line. But they had originally proposed this as a capital expense. I don't believe it qualifies for that and had recommended they put it into their operating budget. The total expense here is just over $20,000. They have lines that can absorb 10,000 of it, so I would recommend that we increase this line by 10,000 so they can pay that amount.
What is this exactly?
Yeah, so it's for their evidence track.
This is the police, right?
This is the police.
Police
okay.
department evidence tracking system. Right now, they use an antiquated system that previous staff had a really good understanding of, and I think we're comfortable.
No, that makes more sense. I didn't know it was police. It didn't say
Yes,
that, so
yes.
that makes more sense.
You know what? Bring your mic a little closer.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's the bend in it.
The next line is for UCC food distribution. We had discussed an opportunity with the move from the health department to reconfigure how we approach food distribution, and we had solicited a few proposals, but we like the one provided by UCC. They currently stock our community fridge, and we have an interest in moving forward with them on this resetting of how we provide that food distribution. There is an opportunity for part of this cost to be paid for with the grant noted above for the health department, that health department grant. That could be $11,000 that you use in there to offset that cost. The total cost is, they gave us a proposal just for the balance of this year, would go from May through the end of this year. So the total, I had shown you the total amount for this year, $23,000 as an expense, and $11,000 could be offset by the grant noted above. The next line is what we had discussed earlier, moving Maple Crest from capital into the operating budget at $32,000. So that will be added to this Department of Public Works field maintenance line.
Just to be clear about this, because we've talked about it a couple of times, this is to go out to bid for a firm that comes in and levels all the fields with some kind of special equipment and stuff, right?
This would just be at
Maple Crest.
Maple Crest.
No, I understand, but the three fields at Maple.
But then there's another amount that was already.
Yeah, but I just want to deal with this first. So this would be, we'd go out to go out to a bid or something, or quotes, we know.
Yeah.
Or quotes, because it's only 30. Okay.
Mhm.
So we would find a company that comes in and levels everything.
Mhm.
And that's what we talked to the field committee about.
And these
Maple Crest.
These are the every like 5 years or so amounts where we had the estimates for per field, and we decided to do 3, and then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Then the next line is,
Mayor, may I ask a question? Pardon the interruption. Just to be clear, for the 32,000 for Maple Crest, you guys don't want to do a fully funded ordinance. You want to include it in the budget so that you don't have to do an ordinance?
correct. Because we want to get it done now.
Okay.
We can't wait for the whole, in the estoppel period and all that.
And I'd recommend we put that in our next temporary budget so that we have the money available.
Right.
The next line, this is another DPW line for parks maintenance. This is field startup at Memorial, and which is not included in the prior one, right, in what we just discussed. So startup at Memorial, and then an evaluation and recommendation for all the fields. So for all the fields isn't physical improvements at all the fields, but an evaluation and recommendation. Some of it may be for maintenance items that we can handle, and some of it may be for, let's say, like capital improvements that would be handled, potentially in our budget or maybe in future years.
And we know that South Orange uses an outside firm
We
to
do.
do this, correct?
Yes.
So they would get the fields in Memorial set up to play and then give us an evaluation as to how to go forward.
That's right.
Those two things, right?
Yes.
Okay. You good?
Yeah, yeah. So is this just getting it set up for this year, or is this,
This would become an annual thing, I think.
Yeah.
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 But it would be getting it set up now. That's why we want to do it now and not wait for,
absolutely.
and we want to and put extra money in.
So we can identify,
can
go
get it
here.
done.
Absolutely. This is what we need.
Okay.
The next line is the Hartfield maintenance. As we're talking about DPW expenses increasing in some of the lines above, we were looking for opportunities to decrease some of the spending. In DeHart, we had $20,000 for field maintenance there in prior years. We reduced it to 10 for this year. We think we can reduce it another 5 just because we're going to do a small amount of startup before this spring season, and then we'll go into construction likely for after that. So we won't need a full amount of money here. So just to help balance these changes, propose to reduce DeHart field maintenance by $5,000. The next line is, this is a new, it would be a new line in the budget, a contribution to the South Orange Rescue Squad of $10,000 to recognize expenses related to their mutual aid that they provide Maplewood. And we met with South Orange Rescue. We discussed their needs. And, with anybody, I mean, they're a volunteer organization. They rely heavily on fundraising. They also provide us a tremendous service. And so we thought it appropriate to provide some contribution for their operations. And so we could create a new line to provide that to them.
This would also recognize their attendance at a number of our special events. They do set up an ambulance at like at the 4th of July and a couple of the other things. So, but this is new. We used to do this years ago when the Maplewood First Aid Squad went out of business and South Orange came in to pick up the excess runs, and they do a pretty significant amount of them. We used to give them a contribution, and that kind of died down when we ran into some budget problems. But they did meet with us and explain how much they're doing here, and they did ask for a contribution.
I like that. I mean, they've met with us and asked us to do this a couple of years ago, and we said no. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was at that meeting.
This is on, I'm just being clear, this is on top of the money that we fund our South Orange,
Yes,
the fire department to provide this.
yes.
Right.
So,
So this is, so when our fire department is out on a call, whether it be a fire call or an ambulance call, and there's another call that comes in, then typically South Orange Rescue Squad covers that call. So they don't get reimbursed for that. And this just allows us to recognize their work here.
what was I don't remember, but we did meet with them and they had a number of, like they do calls in Maplewood.
Yeah.
They definitely do provide that service. So are you recommending this as an annual or at least starting this year?
I think
for-
this year, and I think every
and
year,
we'll Evaluate.
yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Speaking of,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a fire in South Orange.
oh, is that right? Okay.
Finish.
I'm sorry.
There's more, right?
Yeah, July 4th, a pension in July 4th.
Yeah, so the next line is for prior year pension bills. We just received this, so we're sorting through it, but we want to make you aware of it in case it does have a budget impact. We got a pension bill for prior year contributions of $141,886. We knew some of these were coming when we do retro payments for any contracts that we settle. We owe money to pension. Some of it, all of it, we should have budgeted for, but we just got the bills and finances going through our lines to see where we have this. And so I'm putting it on here just as a heads up that this could be something we come back, let's say next week, and tell you we need to fund a line to cover this cost. So this is just notification. And then the next line, July 4th fireworks. Because this is the 250th anniversary of our country, we have gone out to our usual vendors to get quotes. And what prior years would cost us $26,000 is $40,000 this year.
Are you serious?
Don't worry, they're going to give us a bigger and better show. And we said, well, could you scale down the show to what we spent last year? And the answer is no. And I think that the reason for that is they have demand because of this. And so there's an opportunity for them to do bigger. So if they could get let's say, if we don't contract with them, they could get someone else to do a $40,000 show. So that's the cost to us. Yeah.
No drones, just fireworks?
We thought about that and talking to other municipalities that have done it, it can be more expensive.
Oh, drones are definitely more expensive.
yeah.
Yeah,
I hear they're pretty cool,
very cool.
but,
Yeah,
it could be more expensive than that.
that's a
Would this
big
go back-
upcharge.
Would this go back down? Because I don't think the scenic
would-
roads go back down. Once they go up, they don't go back
I
down.
know, that's the concern. You hope that in years when you're not celebrating the 250th anniversary, that there's less demand and that could drive the cost down. But
Right,
And,
But
and
it's
is
not
this,
going to go back to 26.
right.
we're doing fireworks twice this year though, right? Because we have
yes,
Juneteenth also. And is that price, that's going to be at the 25 amount?
on Juneteenth, there's not as much demand, but it's a good question and it's one we've asked and it's one we're getting input on right now.
Which we would
We
only
also,
pay
we
half.
also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We would only pay half for that one for Juneteenth.
We pay all,
Oh,
We pay all,
we
of
pay
it.
all.
They pay all of theirs.
yeah.
It's
Alternated.
Oh, I thought we get reimbursed.
We pay, they pay, we pay, they pay.
Okay.
Right. We just pay for 4th of July every year.
So one thing I asked is it, I know, this is, 4th of July is done in community services and Juneteenth is done in arts.
Yeah.
But if we could get one vendor to give 2 shows, maybe we get some cheaper price.
Agreed. And we're exploring that.
Okay, thank you.
So how much of the Juneteenth? We don't know yet. That's for the 4th of July.
Getting quotes now.
Oh,
And that's in their budget.
That's
Okay, so,
do we-
you've,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, what is our critical point, policymakers up here, to where we don't do 4th of July fireworks?
After we're all no longer up here.
I mean, South.
I would like to provide
Good
some
question.
ear canceling headphones if we're going to provide fireworks. I think there's been some talk in the public about that, but that's a very small cost.
Okay.
Just saying.
So, the
I don't think it's-
expenses, the net expenses are up 236, is that?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I was hoping you were going to correct me because you corrected me on the revenue side. So that's $236,000 that we haven't calculated into the budget yet, right?
Sir.
That's right.
And so how do you propose we're going to be able to address this?
Well, there also above that is about $414,000 that is
No, we just heard it's about 180.
158.
Oh, sorry.
$158,908 in additional revenues, $236,126 in additional appropriations. So the difference is you need to come up with $77,268 of an additional revenue.
And part of that is we just received this health grant and we're working with the health department to identify the costs that will be allocated to the grant. And if they are new costs or, how they are going to work it into their budget. So that there is, we do have some questions to answer.
So what Patrick's saying is we're going to look to reduce the salary and wage lines in the health department for this grant where the, salaries would be charged to offset the budget expense for the health department.
Mhm.
And there's some other stuff out there too that we're talking about with salaries too.
Yeah, there are.
Okay. Any questions on this, on the changes that have been proposed?
Looks good.
So do we need to talk any more about budget and revenue, or we've done that, right?
I'm all set.
You're all set. I bet you are. All right. Let's see. Now we're going to go to new employee positions. There are 3 that we're going to be able to talk about in public. One is the administrative operations specialist for community development. Second is a program supervisor in community service. Third is violations in the court.
Wait, is this in your other, sorry, I'm.
This is on the, right here.
Yeah.
On the
Right
agenda.
here.
And
Okay?
Actually,
So this is in the sheet, new employee request sheet.
Yeah.
yes,
But I just want to be clear what we're talking about in open and what we're talking about in closed.
Merit.
thank you.
So in closed, we have a number of requests to increase salaries that we'll be talking about in closed for individuals. And there's also a request to change the public information officer from part-time to full-time, which we will be talking about in closed because it could, in our conversation, it could bleed into the individual, and we don't want to do that publicly.
Right.
So these are new positions that we're talking about only, and they need to be talked about in open and not in closed.
Yep.
We do everything right, Madam Clerk? Okay. So we've heard a request from the Community Development Administrative Operations Specialist. Mr. Weary, in his recommendations, you do not recommend that.
that's correct.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak on that to propose a different opinion about that?
Could we get a little context from you as to your recommendation?
Yes. So first on the request, and you were provided with the new employee request, which has background from the department head here on this request. But generally speaking, looking for an additional person to handle a lot of the data operations for some of the divisions in that office, as well as a potential increase in need for administrative tasks related to historic preservation and the potentially if there was a historic district and additional work, it could be absorbed in that department. So that was one part of the need for this position. The other part was related to operational projects related to data management and kind of how data is collected, compiled, and presented from the department. I do think that there's there's always a benefit in having a new employee, but I don't think that there's a long-term need. And I think, looking at our budget in total, this is a position that we don't have to fund.
If we do not, how do you suggest that we meet the need?
Some of this piece is data, and some of that looking at data. I think some of that can be done in, let's say, other departments. We've discussed a need for more housing data, and I've already started working with the tax assessor, with the director of community development to pull some of those numbers together. I think that it wouldn't be maybe as like any presentation wouldn't be as polished and maybe not updated as frequently, but I think we can provide enough information to the township committee where you can use it to make decisions. And that's where I think, certainly the position could be used. So doing without it, you're not going to get as much, or it's not going to be as polished, but I think you'll be able to get what you need in that area from administration and a lot of departments helping to pull those numbers together to where you can make responsible decisions. On the piece about Historic Preservation Commission, there, as we talked about Ridgewood Road and the potential there may be potential expenses related to that, but we're not at a point in that process where we have a current need. And I wouldn't want to fund a position when there's not a current need. So that's why I recommend not funding this position.
Has there been any research and a further assessment done with community development to better understand how they will move forward if we decide not to fund this position?
I've discussed my recommendation with the director of that department, and we have an agreement that we can accomplish what we need to accomplish this year without the position.
Okay, because beyond data that's project specific or request specific, I do think that the department is looking at building their data capacity long term so that they can evaluate some things like code enforcement. They can evaluate the effect of new fees for zoning and construction, for instance. They can basically be more data informed in general, which is a long-term permanent thing as opposed to a specific project. So how is that going to be handled if we do not fund this position?
It'll, to the extent we can, it'll be handled with current staff. And I say to the extent we can because I don't want to give the impression that everything that could be expected out of this position will still be accomplished in the same way. But again, I go back to confident we can provide the township committee with the data they need to make good decisions and even the public, to explain our positions. I think we can do that. It's going to be administration, it's going to be community development, it could be the clerk's office, it's going to be a few offices pitching in to get the data out that we need to. And the more and more we rely on some of these like systems like GovPilot, I think we gain knowledge of how they function. I think even this year, but before any of these discussions, we're able to get some better data out that we've seen in prior years. I certainly think that's helpful.
Thank you.
And this is the first year that this staff ad has been requested for this department.
Yes.
So I think what Mr. Daffis is saying is that some of these needs um, may only be filled with additional staff, but you're saying that we'll be able to still get this data. And I think what I'm interested in is this is the first year they've asked for this. I'd like to see what kind of data we're able to get throughout this year. And I'd like to get a little more information, a little more background and understanding about what a new person would be able to add to that department and sort of, down the line, this would be a possibility. But I think that there is a need, and if we're able to fulfill it without adding a staff, that's obviously a better thing to do. But so I'm glad it's on our radar at least, and if we're not able to do it this year, it may be a need in coming years.
Okay,
We move the pool manager to community development, or is that in the wrong place?
No.
no, we didn't identify that. We need to talk about that.
No, I know, but it's under community development.
Yeah, okay. So, anything else on this administrative operations specialist?
When somebody resigns,
You gotta use your mic.
I'm sorry, when someone leaves and resign, do we absorb that money, that the total amount we're paying them into the department, or we take and put it back in the general? What do we do with that money?
So let's say you have a position funded at $100,000 in a department's salary and wage line. That person leaves halfway through the year, so you have $50,000 remaining. That amount would stay in that salary and wage line. If you didn't fill it through the end of the year, then that amount is unspent at the end of the year. It could either be canceled off or it could run through the following year and then lapse into surplus in the fund balance.
Would that be reflected in your spreadsheet when you give it to us as an actual, or would you update it later?
When we look at salary and wage lines, we fund it for the full amount for the full year. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
So
Okay. We'll come back and we're going to go through each one and we're going to add the pool manager because that was a new position we didn't get onto the agenda. And then we'll come back and make a decision on the whole package. Community Services Program Supervisor, you are not recommending that. That's a request of $49,000 in salary.
that's right. So to discuss the position, I'll just give you some of the highlights because for each of these, the department heads have provided a greater detail for all of them that I couldn't get into. But generally the community services has experienced growth in their programming and revenue, and they have a greater need for staff. The reason I don't recommend this position, one, we've had difficulty retaining, well, right now, we don't have a fully staffed office, and I am interested to see the operation of the office when it's fully staffed, and we've taken some measures to ensure that we not just attract good candidates, but retain good candidates. So I want to see how that operates with a fully staffed office. The second piece is my understanding from the Township Committee is you want to take a look at recreation programming and make a decision on, do we want, are there opportunities um, to pull back a little bit of what we offer, like in specific areas. So, I think we should get through that process before we decide to add additional resources to the department.
Anybody have any?
I have one question. I just was wondering if you could give us an update on, because that department is not fully staffed right now, is that correct?
That's correct.
There are 2 openings
Yes.
for the recreation director and the arts and culture, or I don't know, that's not
Yeah.
arts and culture.
Yes.
Director, sorry. And those are not filled yet.
Right. So there's an art director position that is not filled. There is a program supervisor or program manager position that we've made an appointment, but they haven't started yet. And there is a program supervisor position that we have advertised and interviewed for and have not yet made an appointment on.
Yeah, I think we need to see this department fully staffed before we add anything else.
Okay. Anything else on this one? Violations clerk.
In the court, we've had high turnover in that office. And even fortunately, we've been able to keep it mostly fully staffed, but the turnover has set them back in terms of the amount that they're able to process. And there's kind of 2 pieces. One, there's enough work in the office. We already have a backlog, and we want to make sure that when people have a need to appear before the court, that it's done in a timely manner. And so we have an immediate need to fill the position so that we can address that backlog. This position also supports the South Orange Municipal Court as well. They have a similar backlog, and so the benefit is that the costs are shared as well. We've discussed with South Orange, and they are also in favor of filling this position.
And they pay half.
They pay half.
Okay. Any comment on this?
I support this if we're going to increase our enforcement.
And then we have the pool manager, $10,000.
Yeah, and I
Go ahead.
I apologize for this not being added earlier. The reason it's not on the salary sheet, like I gave you a sheet with all the salaries for employees. It's not on there because it's kind of boiled down with a lot of those seasonal workers who are part-time seasonal, and you'll see a whole number in there. The request from the department is right now we have 3 managers for the pool. And the pool, as you know, runs 7 days a week and has long hours. So we need 3 of those managers. We have a need right now. We don't staff a manager before 12 noon. And so the operations prior to 12 noon are generally like run by the most senior person there. But as we've been adding more programming in the morning around lessons and things. And there's also just, as we have more pool patrons, we have a need to be ready when all of them show up and to do some more like planning in advance. And so, and everyone I think here has seen over the last few years, the increase in demand at the pool, which has been great. And so I do recommend that we fund this position.
I agree with that. I also think, just like with rec programming, we need to think about being careful about how much we're providing in programming and lessons or whatever it is, because that also takes away from members' ability to enjoy the pool entirely and to have a little less going on sometimes. But anyway, my point is, we keep asking for more, so now we have to fund somebody to help.
Just to clarify, there is no increase in pool lessons for this summer.
Not this summer, last couple of years.
And they've sold out because
I know, I'm not saying it's not wanted, I'm saying,
Okay.
I think we need to be careful.
So
why is it under community development though?
it's just a mistake.
Oh, okay.
Just a
But
mistake.
did I put it under community development?
Yeah, it's under community development on your sheet.
Don't
the
you,
sheet.
that's what I said
Yes.
before.
Community development doesn't run the pool.
No. Okay. It's just a mistake. So we've heard, we've dealt with 4 new position requests. We've heard recommendations of the administrator. The 4 total about $160,000. Some of them are full-time, so they would be also getting benefits. I don't have that,
That's
that
the
number.
point.
So, but, so let's just go down. Is there anyone who would like to create the position of Administrative Operations Specialist this year?
Not this year, but
Okay,
maybe
Yeah.
in the future. We'll
Same, not
further
this year,
assess.
but maybe in the future.
okay. Well, we're focused, let's focus on this year because we don't know about the future. Community Services Program Supervisor. Anyone want to?
The new one. No.
Okay.
Not right.
Violations Clerk.
Yes.
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 Yes. Jane, you,
Who said yes?
yes, okay. Pool.
Yes.
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 No.
Okay, so you're.
Did you say yes?
So yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So you got them. Okay. Next up is public comment. Is there anyone, there's no one in the room. Is there anyone online who would like to address the Township Committee?
No, they're outside on this
Would they be
beautiful day.
Okay.
They may watch it later.
So we need a motion. Are you going to read
Read.
read the statement?
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, permits exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, whereas this public body is the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. Now therefore be resolved by Township Committee, Township Maplewood, State of New Jersey, as follows: the public shall be excluded upon discussion upon any action upon the herein specified subject matter. The general nature to be discussed as follows: personnel. It's anticipated this time that the above stated subject matter will be made public.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Collins Colding,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Ms. Herman,
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca.
Yes. I have a question. Will we be coming out of there to come here to adjourn, or we'll be able to adjourn in there?
We just stay out here?
We have to come back out here to
We
adjourn.
could stay, yeah, we could just stay right here. We don't have to go in there. We can just stay here. If you just
Oh,
close
yeah,
everything-
that makes
Oh,
sense.
but then, so what would we do?
Just
You
put
mean-
it on, like,
I would ask if the Township Committee is comfortable
Recess.
that we stop the Zoom, which
Yeah.
would generally be,
What?
indefinite.
Sure, why
We'll
don't
come
we
back
stay
and
here?
We would stop the YouTube, and
can.
I expect, if the Township Committee doesn't expect to take official
Yes.
action after.
We'll make that statement. So we are going to go into closed. Rather than move to the other room, we're here, we got our stuff here. So we are going to end the Zoom and the YouTube. At the end of the close, we will come back into public for only the purposes of adjourning the meeting. We will not take any action at that time.
On the YouTube, it's going to show in closed session, not that it's over.
Recommend it just be closed.
just.
Yeah.
But then how are we going to come back?
We're just going to end
Can
it.
open with.
I just made that statement so that we're not coming back publicly. And we won't be,
Come back publicly, but if they want to see us, they have to come here.
Okay, fine.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Since we have.
Oh,
to be here.
yeah, we're ready. We're ready to move.
We're in.
We're in close, Mayor.